right now. For the next hour, 2 hours and a half, you'll be listening to Brother Sam. The Matrix Revealed, a metaphysical analysis of the Matrix movies. Stay tuned and enjoy. Hotep, y'all.
I said, Hotep, first of all, again, I'm requesting permission from the elders as well as the host to speak. I said the host too, so I mean I was going to you first. Is there any I'm also going to? I have my elder I traveled with. Well, you give me permission to speak in your place, but my teacher is giving me permission to speak his. So I'm going to my teacher to get permission to speak for this Saturday. But for permission from the elder as well as from the host, first of all, I would like to, because we're going to be talking about the Matrix, actually, let me start off this way if everybody don't mind. I'm going to mess up your camera shot. Let me start off this way. I'm going to start off by greeting everybody with Hotep. But because we're going to be talk about the Matrix, I'm going to share what Hotep is, because actually Hotep is the Matrix, okay? And as opposed to just talking about the lecture, because we got a small enough group for us to be able to do some of the things that we're going to talk about, I'm going to do that. Hotep is a Kemetic word, and the word means unshakable inner peace, or sometimes called Hetep. Now, that's just a word. You're going to find out, for those who actually seen the Matrix and know it, in the third Matrix, it speaks a lot about the significance of how words become realities. Meaning, in the third Matrix, one of the major things that takes place is a computer program has a child, and it wants its child to get out of the Matrix. And Neo was kind of shocked. He said, "But you're a computer. You're a program. How can you have an emotion like love?" He said, because he said machines don't have emotions. He said, "What do you mean we don't have emotions?" He said, "Well, you're a machine." He said, "Well, love is just a word." He said, "It's what the word implies that I'm feeling." You know what I'm saying? So sometimes people get stuck in the world of words, and they don't understand that words are what comes after an experience. People try to use words to describe reality. So when we say the word Hotep, that's just the word. But what is the word actually describing? What is the word? What actually caused the word to come into existence? What were people trying to explain? They were trying to explain this place where you were totally safe. Nothing could attack you from inside or outside. It was a womb around you that protected you, and it was unshakable. I mean, you couldn't move this womb. It's like when something is pure, no matter how much you burn it or put pressure on it, what does it do when it's pure? It stays the same. It's just you can't change it once it gets down burnt to its pure essence. Well, Hotep simply is this place inside of each and every one of us that our peace cannot be shaken. We know who we are. We love who we are. We be who we are. And nobody say or do or think can take it away from you. Most people lose their peace because of what other people say, what other people think, what other things outside of them do. So when we communicate with each other, we start by saying, Hotep, I wish you the best of who you are. A direct connection with yourself. You know what I'm saying? A connection with the power that cannot be shaken by the world. The power that the devil don't have access to. I'm wishing you to connect to the most powerful part of your being, but connect it with everybody around us. So now our space is Hotep. We ain't worried about what's going on outside. We ain't worried about what's going to happen outside of us. We are now connected and protected. So I'm saying Hotep to everybody, and I'm looking for everybody to say Hotep back. Hotep. Hotep. There we go. Thank you. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I want to first of all start out tonight by thanking Queen Mother Hatshepsut for inviting me to the African Information Center and giving me the opportunity to share this information about the Matrix. To give a real quick background on why I chose the Matrix Reveal as a topic. First of all, let me just do it this way. How many people here have seen the movies The Matrix? 1, 2, 3, and The Matrix? Okay. So when we actually get into the lecture part of it, I'm going to start from where you are at. I done watched the movie 40, 50 times. You know what I'm saying? So I can't start there because I'm talking about little small details that if you only seen it once or twice, you ain't gonna know what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna really start with your questions about the Matrix. Just to give you a little bit of history about the Matrix is that the Matrix, the story behind the Matrix. It's an old story. It's an old story. And we'll talk about that more for a minute. But just to give you a connection to my direct relationship to it, I did a lecture that I'm going to real similar to the one I'm going to do today about the Matrix back in 1996. We got on tape. It's called The Grid then. Because I met a chess master in Tennessee in 1995, and he taught something called the chess matrix. As a matter of fact, when Stephen Coakley, you get Brother Patrick Freeman's show that came on in the latter part of 1995, he has it on tape. Me and Stephen Coakley are on the radio talking about this whole idea about the Matrix, about what the Matrix is and how it works. So this movie that's coming out on it, that came out on it in 98, 99, this discussion about what the Matrix is and how the Matrix works is a discussion that was going on way before that. As a matter of fact, right here in Buffalo, we have been doing workshops on it even way before then. You know, Brother Iman had been teaching on it many, many years before that. But at that time, we called it the grid. The Matrix is just another way of saying the same thing. But the Matrix movies is a real important part. Watch me when I tell you this. It's going to become a real important part of American history. A lot like Star Wars. For anybody who know, familiar with Joseph Campbell and him, he did a whole piece on myth and mythology. And he talked about how important myths were for societies to grow. You know what I'm saying? If you go back and you look at the ancient Greeks or the ancient Egyptians they always had these great myths that would be what people use to kind of like, well, matter of fact, if you really want to boil down to it, a lot of what we talk about in religion are mythological stories that we have tried to make historical, but they really mythological stories. But nonetheless, that this is the American myth. I mean, if you look at the amount of money, the amount of advertising, the amount of investment that was put inside of the making of the Matrix, this is almost like the new American myth. It's going to be used to teach many, many years from now. It's almost like a version of The Godfather or, all these great, that's what the Matrix is going to become. Now, right up front, let me tell you, most people who've seen Matrix 1, 2, and 3, that was designed just as a surface analysis of the movie. Actually, if you want to know what the backstory of the Matrix is, it's called the prequel. What was going on before the Matrix was made, why the movie was made. It's a video that you have to see. Actually, it's 9 movies on here. 9 animated movies called the Animatrix. And if you haven't seen this, you haven't really seen the Matrix yet. Because you're just watching the movie, but it's like looking at a tree and looking at the fruit of the bear, but you only see the tree. You don't understand that under the ground is a whole set of roots, holding this tree up. Well, here is the roots to the Matrix. This is where the story came from. And they said if you see the fruit of something, you see the seed of something, you really see what it is. So it's important to see this. Matter of fact, that's what they just call it as, the prequel to the trilogy, to the Matrix trilogy. Basically, just to give a short overview about what the Matrix story is. Just as a real simple point. I'm going to tell you the story that's in the movie and I'm going to be repeating it to you. And then I'm going to tell you the history of just the story. Then I'm going to ask you to tell me what questions you have about the Matrix. And I'll teach and I'll talk about what the Matrix is from your questions. And then that'll kind of like give us a space to begin to work from. The story behind the Matrix You had a question right from the jump?
I do, because I'll lose it if I don't.
Okay, go.
When you were talking about the grid and, what's his name? Henry did a lecture on the grid. Maybe 5 years ago. Something was going to happen and the grids were going to open up like in August. Now, is the matrix and the grid and what happened with the blackout, because they referenced it to grid, are they all related or?
Yes, they definitely related. Matter of fact, let me give it to you this way. A lot of times people only think about things in the physical, okay? But the grid that we're talking about is more of a psychological grid that plays out in the physical. But it's a psychological grid. Like I'll give you an example of a psychological grid. There used to be the Master Muhammad used to teach that America was going to end. It was going to come to an end at one day, some point. You know what I'm saying? Late in this century. And for those who understood what America was back then when he said it, and they see where we at today, it did come to an end. What we know as America ain't America no more, especially if you go back to 1933. Mathematically, with the grid that we called America is over. It's no longer in existence. It's a new grid. That's when they started coming out with this new world order. There was the making of a new grid, okay? So when a grid breaks up, when people no longer believe in it, it's like saying, it's like Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses or all the king's men couldn't put Humpty back together again. Humpty Dumpty represents a grid. It sits up on the wall. People look at it. They watch it. They believe in it. This is America the Great. But then Humpty Dumpty falls. It's an egg. That's the shape. When it cracks open, ain't nobody can put it back together. All the king's horses, horses represent power. All his military is might, trying to go around the world to put the grid back together so people will believe in and be afraid of America again. All the king's horses, all the king's men, his minds, his politicians, his diplomats are trying to put this thing back together again. But you can't put it back together again because the grid is now broke. And people don't believe no more. People used to be afraid to do certain things. Like, for example, the 9/11 thing, all of them kind of things people wouldn't even think at one time. You understand? Now there's a lot of things that you're seeing happening in this country, in this grid, that wouldn't have took place in this grid 50 or 100 years ago. Because just like anything else that has a beginning, it also has an ending. All right? So, yes, all of it's related. You understand? And here's the direct relationship. The more information you have about what the grid is and how the grid works, you recognize it as it breaks. You know what I'm saying? So an engineer recognized right away, woo, look at that. Whereas somebody looking like, what happened? You know what I'm saying? You know, they don't get it. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who's just a layperson just looking at it on the surface don't know. But eventually, even a layperson is going to see where the grid is starting to break down at. You understand? So what they did is they told the whole story just so people could see. But they told the whole story for the purpose of replacing it with another story so that you can you can move from one grid to another grid. Now, I'm saying that because the movie is coming from a Western perspective. When we look at it from a more of a comedic or a metaphysical perspective, this is something that's going on anyway, and is not the perspective that the Western version of it. So let me kind of like give the story, okay? And I'll give the story, just a summary of the story, and then I'll give a history of the story, because that's really what the real issue is. Most people don't know that this story is not a new story. I mean, this is just their version of a story that is ancient. And then I'm going to give you something even better than a story. I'm going to wrap it up by showing you how black people didn't just tell the story. They actually lived it. They actually set up living versions of the story. So I'll be able to show you the living version of the Matrix as we wrap this up. Who Neo is, who Morpheus is, who the council is. All those people are real people. You understand? Those are not just people that are in the show, and we'll talk about that at the end of it. But the story, the general story, is about human beings and the height of their civilization. They create something called artificial intelligence, AI. These are computers who can almost think. They can't actually think, but they are so effective as computers. They move so fast, you think they can think. Okay? That's artificial intelligence. What happens is this. Computers or machines cannot create. But once somebody creates, They can do it, they can repeat what other people have done. So if people on this side of the world do something that people on this side of the world haven't done, they can bring a machine over here that can do it. People are like, oh, wow, look at that. You understand? Because their mind haven't done it yet, but it's been done by humans in somewhere else. So what happened with artificial intelligence is humans created this artificial intelligence. These are computers and machines that have the ability to take in information and data, and once they learn how to use it, they can do it. You know what I'm saying? They can walk, they can talk, they look like humans. But they're machines, okay? They robots, but they're high-tech robots. They got skin that almost looks like regular skin. You know what I'm saying? It's not, but it looks like it, okay? You understand? It's the 2000 version of the Bionic Man. You understand? But you see how the Bionic, so now you got a whole race of Bionic men, okay? And so if you go to the backstory, in the Animatrix, this story I'm telling you is called the Second Renaissance, Part 1 and Part 2. The Second Renaissance, this is Europeans' Renaissance. The Second Renaissance is where these machines now all are servicing humanity. Humans don't have to work no more. They just get to live in luxury. They get to, the machines do all the work. They rule the world. They just live in luxury and everything is wonderful. So what happens, and they constantly figuring out, using the machines to figure out how to upgrade the machines, to make the machines better. And the machines are getting better and better and more effective, and they everywhere. Some people would say that if you go back 50 years ago, and you think about there was no computers like we see today, there was computers used by the government, big, huge collaboration of the computer, and you come to today where you can get a computer in your watch. You know what I'm saying? You can get a computer, you can stay in here and talk to people on a cell phone on the other side of the planet. Some people would say the machines are everywhere. They would say it's going on right now. But in the story, these machines now service humanity. But what happens is, one day, one of the humans wants to destroy his machine. He don't want it no more. He wants to destroy it. But don't forget now, this machine has got artificial intelligence. The machine sees other humans say they don't want to die. So the machine learns the ability to say, wait a minute, I don't want to die. I don't want to be destroyed. And the human say, hold up, that's my property. If I want to destroy him, I got the right to destroy him. So the machine files a lawsuit. Says, no, I should have the right to stay alive as a machine if I want to stay alive as a machine. Okay? And they go to court. They go to court. Now, we're talking about machines and humans. Think about when they used to see black people as property in this country. They had the right to do anything with their property. And all of a sudden, black people say, well, no, wait a minute, I'm not property, I'm human too. Same metaphor going on. As a matter of fact, when you go watch this, the name of the machine that brings the lawsuit is called BIGGER and BI55EI. When you write it on paper, it says bigger. You know what I'm saying? For those of you who make the connection, you know what I'm saying, that's the name of the machine that brings the lawsuit. But anyway, the machine brings a lawsuit and it loses the lawsuit. The Supreme Court rules that the machine is property, has no rights of a human being, therefore it can be destroyed. So they destroy the machine. But they start destroying bunches of machines because they're making new machines. They're destroying the old machines. Well, this place where they exile all these old machines at, these machines start to figure out how to fix each other. You understand? And they set up their own little machine city, right? And so now the machines have their own little city and nobody mess with them. They over there on this island, making themselves up, have their own little society, and next thing you know, they get good at it. They have a society where they walk around and they exchange, do business, and they do everything the humans do because that's all they can do. They've been trained by humans. All they can do is what humans have taught them. So what they do is they build things, they fix things, they grow things, they do everything the humans have taught them. But what happened while they're doing this, they end up with this beautiful, well-functioning society. They have money, they have trade, commerce, all of that. And the human society starts to fall apart. The human society, they start to fight wars against each other, and their money starts to go down, and all these different things happen. And so the machines send two of their representatives to the United Nations and say, listen, We have a society over here. We have a country over here. We would like to be recognized as members of the United Nations. And the humans say, no, y'all machines. Y'all can't get in the United Nations. So the two ambassador machines, they kill them right there on national TV. And the machines are watching on TV while they're killing their representatives, on there. So the machines develop, first of all, they develop a machine army. And so now the humans cannot get to them because they got a machine army and they can defend themselves. So not only do they develop an army, they also tell the humans, you understand, they're going to trade on their stock market because they can function in commerce. So they begin to go into human cities and set up business in human cities. And they do. They set up wonderful businesses, blah, blah. And then humans start to trade with them. And so when the humans' money fall apart, the machines' money take over. Okay? And now the humans are dependent on the machines because the machines have the most efficient society ran, their money is good, everything they do is good, but the humans' ego won't let them be subservient to machines. But now the machines got armies in all the human cities. And they don't listen to the humans no more. You understand? Now the machines get the machines that the humans make to work for them. You understand? So they go around and convert the machines. You understand? So this is the backstory. So what happens is humans decide the machines have got too powerful. They've taken over the world, so they're going to kill all the machines. So they try to come up with 3 or 4 different ways to kill the machines. But when they dropped the bomb on the machine city, the machines were made out of metal and stuff. The bomb didn't hurt them, it hurt flesh. It didn't hurt the machines, you know what I'm saying? And whenever it did hurt the machines, they just rebuilt themselves together and boom, boom, boom. But now they start killing humans. And so now what happens is the humans is trying to figure out how do they kill the machine without killing themselves. They can't figure out a way. But some of the scientists get together and says, well, the source of the machine's energy is sunlight. So if we can scorch the sky, for those who remember the Matrix, this is what happens. This is how the story starts in the Matrix, the movies. All this what I just told you is in the Matrix, okay? The movie starts out with the humans then scorch the sky. They scorch the sky so that no sunlight gets to the machines because they think the machines are solar powered. You understand? So the machines will all of a sudden just die. You understand? So the sky is scorched now, but the machines figure out a way to live even though they don't have sunlight as their source of energy no more. What they realize is that the human, in the wars that they fighting, they got all these bodies for the humans. Now, their bodies, they can easily repair, but the human body is not easily repaired. You know what I'm saying? So what they do is they realize that the human body actually generates electricity. It actually generates heat and electricity. So they figure if they cannot get heat and electricity from the sun, what they'll do is take all these human bodies, find a way to keep them alive, and they'll draw energy from them. And they develop a system for drawing energy from the human body. They first used human bodies of the ones that was dying in war. But then they figure out a way to actually grow human beings. And they actually start setting up human being farms to make human beings in order for them to use the human beings for energy to stay alive. So what they do is as you see all them little things that's plugged into all them people in the Matrix, all of them were plugged into them to extract energy out of them. And so when a human being would live and die, the ones that would die, they would liquefy it, and they would feed it intravenously to the ones that were living to keep them alive, you understand, so they can keep generating the energy. So the machines now have the human beings to live off. Now here's the whole idea of why the Matrix was created. The humans now have moved to the center of the earth because they trying to stay alive. They done scorched the sky. They ain't got no sunlight. And they fighting a war with the machines, okay? The machines are on the surface level. They done blew up all the human cities. That's the Matrix. That's the movie we see. They done blew up all the human cities. So now they figuring out the machines have to find a way to stay alive. If they don't keep these human farms, growing these humans in these farms, the machines are going to stop working because they won't have an energy source. So when they start growing human beings, what happens is the human beings, when they wake up, they try to pull the things out. And they don't have a way to control the body of the human being from being plugged into this thing that's growing them. So what they realize is that the human being needs mental stimulation. They need some kind of mind activity to keep their body from moving. So if you can get something to freeze their mind, their body will sit still. Like if you put a television screen on a movie on. Kids used to go outside and play football, run around, catch, boom, boom, boom. Now you put football on a TV and everybody's body sits still. They just sit there in their mind, watch TV, or they play it with the game, you understand? But their body is still. So they needed something to stop the human's body from moving so they can extract this energy from it. So they created the Matrix. The Matrix was designed to freeze the human mind so that you can use its body to get energy from it. What happened was, this guy who created the Matrix, if you've seen Matrix 2, the guy who created the name was the architect. The first Matrix he created was perfect. It gave every human being a perfect life. They got everything they wanted. Everything was beautiful. It was mathematically perfect. But human beings rejected it. It was almost like they didn't believe it was possible for them to have a perfect life and have all their needs met. You understand? So they rejected it, and it didn't work. So they kept coming up with processes to make a matrix that human beings would accept. You understand? So ultimately they find one that human beings will accept, and they get human beings to accept this program that freezes their mind and causes their body to lay inside of this womb and just live and die, and they never even move. They're born as a baby, fed intravenously, you understand? They grow, their mind, they're in a dream the whole time. They dream that they live their life. They actually believe, I was born, I got a mother, a father, a birthday, I went to first grade, second grade, I got a job, and I live, and I die, and they have never, ever moved. All this is going on in their head. That is the whole idea of what happens with the Matrix. Now what happens is, some human beings wake up and get out, and some human beings have never been in. Okay? Now, what I mean by that. The human beings who are in the Matrix, or who are grown on these human fields, they have all these, they wired. The machines come in and wire them. You know, like when you go in a hospital and they put the thing in you so you can get an intravenous, they did. The machines do all that stuff. So they can draw the energy out of them, okay? So you know what human beings have been plugged into the Matrix. But human beings outside the Matrix, they also know how to go in there and get human beings in freedom. You can tell the difference between the two because the human beings who've never been in the Matrix don't have the holes in them. I'm saying, if you remember, if those who remember the movie, remember Dozier and his brothers, the people who flew the first aircraft, they was born in Zion. They didn't have the plugs, which also meant they couldn't go in the Matrix. Because everybody that went in the Matrix, how'd they get in the Matrix? They plugged into their head. Human beings who ain't never been wired, they can watch the Matrix, but they couldn't go in the Matrix. Because what is the Matrix? Let's play it out in real terms. What the Matrix became is, think of it this way, there's a real world where the machines and the human beings are fighting a war. This is a real world that's actually going on. The human beings are at the center of the earth at a place called Zion. That's their last human city. The machines are all over the earth, running the earth, living life as machines, you understand? But they're also trying to figure out how to destroy these human beings in Zion. Now, they in order to stay alive in all these places where machines at, they have human farms where they're growing humans, okay? Now, in all these places, they come up with the farm is a software program that they use to control the minds of all the human beings who are growing on the human farm. That software program, that computer, it's like a dream. This is what it is. All these human beings, if you've seen, anybody remember what the human farm looks like? They're pods. It's thousands of them. You understand? Thousands of them in the movie. They're pods. And human is when Neo wakes up and he goes, oh, and he pulls the thing out the back of his head, that's what he's in. But there are millions of them all over the place. Okay? That's where that's the world. That's the generating plate with energy. Well, that machine that's drawing the energy out of them is plugged into a big old giant computer. It's like a computer where that keeps their mind watching the story that's playing out. Okay? And so it has, just like any computer program, it has a role for every single person in there. Like society, for example. There's a role for everybody. You know what I'm saying? They got a role for everybody. I mean, either you're a teacher, a preacher, a politician, you're a bum, you work at this factory, you work at there, you work there. But somebody wrote out a role for you to play in society. You understand? You know, and you born, and while you're growing up, you learn what your role is going to be. You're the black people, you're the white people, you're the Asian people. You understand? Somebody tells you what black people act like. Somebody tell you what the Asian people act like. Somebody tell you what the white people act like. Somebody tell you what the poor people act like. Somebody tell you what the rich people act like. Those are all roles, okay? The same thing happens in the Matrix. Everybody is given a role to play. You understand? So they're laying there, and they actually think they're playing out the role, but what it is just their mind. It's playing this role out. It's suspended, keeping their playing this whole thing out. So this is another world. It's not the real world. It's another world. Like, for example, you know how people watch soap operas and they know everything that's going on in the soap opera? It ain't in the real world, but when you hear people talking about it, oh, you know what happened with Rick and Sue, and you know what happened? It was almost like it's what? Like it's a real world. You know what I'm saying? People know who got married, who had kids, who broke up. They know all the generations of people in the soap opera world, and if you ask them who their second cousin was in their real family, you know what I'm saying? They probably wouldn't even know who they was. Who your uncle married to? You understand? Who your great uncle married to? Who your uncle down in Florida married to? You understand? Who is his kids and what's his kid's name? If you ask them, they probably say, we don't get to see them that much. But if you ask them who was Martin married to on the Martin show, oh, he was married to Gina. And she was, and they got this kid, they can give you the whole histories for this other world. And it's not a real world. That's the same thing that was going on in the Matrix. People was learning the stories of what was going on in the fake world, and they did not know nothing about the real world. Nothing about the real world. So, the people in the real world now, what they began to do is figure out a way to go into the Matrix, which is this. They're in the real world. If you remember, anybody remember Morpheus' ship? Anybody what it was called? It was called the Nebuchadnezzar. He had a ship. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Remember, Gurdjieff said the most dangerous thing that happened to humanity was the newspaper and magazines, where instead of human beings living their own life, they pick up the newspaper, they look up the magazine, and they start to plug into other people's lives and other realities, and they don't know what's going on in their own perimeter. But they can tell you what's going on in the whole world, but don't know what's going on in their own house or their own backyard. Where I was at is
You were talking about
I was talking about Nebuchadnezzar, the ship. And for those, and if you haven't paid attention to this detail, when you watch it the next time, you'll see that the ship that Morpheus is riding is called the Nebuchadnezzar. And the whole story starts out, the beginning of the story starts out with the Nebuchadnezzar he's getting ready to get somebody out of the Matrix. He's getting ready to get this guy named Neo out of the Matrix. Okay? Now, how does the Nebuchadnezzar do this? The Nebuchadnezzar, remember, is in the real world. It's a ship. It's a hovercraft. It flies around in the real world. He goes somewhere, they park it, and they broadcast a signal into the Matrix, which means they just jack into the computer. The computer that got everybody's mind frozen is the equivalent of everybody sitting there watching TV, and somebody comes into the TV program that was not a part of the original program. But because they come in so smooth and they look like everybody else, you can't tell them from everybody else. It's just another character in the movie. So the humans have figured out how to jack into this program. And if they can get into this program called the Matrix, they can wake people up. Now, you're going to find out when you watch it in detail, they only woke up kids. They said Neo was one of the rare times where they woke up an adult. Matter of fact, he apologized to Neo. He said, Neo, I apologize to you because we almost never wake up people when they get past a certain age, because after a certain age, their mind can't even begin to process what the Matrix is, so we just leave them alone. You know what I'm saying? And Neo did. When Neo found out what the Matrix was, he went to throwing up and flipping out. He couldn't deal with that. The fact that his whole life was just a dream, he had never even been alive. Matter of fact, the first time he woke up on the table, what did he say? He said, why do my eyes hurt? He said, because you never used them. You know what I'm saying? The reality was that even though it's just like us, right now we walk around, if you woke up in your dream right now, and you was walking around in your dream, and then all of a sudden you woke up down here, and you walk around down here, how do you know which one is the real world? You understand? So the reality was he was living a life only in his dream world. You understand? He had never used his eyeballs. But just like you can see in your dreams, right? You can hear in your dreams. You can live in your dreams. You don't need your body in your dreams, right? So he never had used his body before. So he had now, for the first time, had got access to a real body, and all his muscles had atrophied. He had never used them. Remember that picture with all them pricks they had him in there, in the thing, they were stimulating all his muscles? Because he had never ever, he didn't even know what a body was. He only had the illusion of a body. You understand? But think about how devastating that is when he didn't live and died and had all kind of drama in his life, girlfriends and bad days and good days, and then somebody said, oh, that never really happened. that was all really just a dream. Now you can live real life. You're like, what? I went through all that stress, all that whatever, and it didn't really happen. You understand? And that's, in effect, what took place with him. You understand? So, the science of the Matrix is about how we free human beings. That's what it's about. Because if you remember Morpheus when he's talking to Neo, he says, you want to know what the Matrix is? The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world designed to turn a human being into a battery. That's what it is. It's designed as how you socialize or condition somebody's mind to make them a robot. It's the same thing as slavery. That's what the Matrix is. How do you get a human being to be a slave? That's what it just ain't that simple. You have to do something to the mind to get a human being to be a slave. It's not natural for a human being to be a slave. So you have to do something to their mind. The Matrix is the science of turning human beings into robots. It's the science of turning human beings into energy sources for other human beings. It's the science for disconnecting a human being from their self. It's the science to making a human being become a personality. It's the science for limiting a human being. It's the science for taking unlimited potential and making it into limited potential. That's what a battery is, ain't it? It's direct current. You take from unlimited potential, you put it in a form to where it can serve only a limited potential. That's the design. You see, it's designed to take a human being who was born, a young child like that, who was born, who has the potential to be anything she want to be, and get her to either be something limited. You can say, all right, I'm going to turn this child. I want some children to be smart, great, do wonderful things. But I also want some children to be dumb, criminals, violent. So how do you get children who ain't born doing none of that, how do you get them to be this or that? You do something to their mind. You begin to feed the mind of one of them saying, oh, you're such a smart, beautiful child. You're going to be great when you grow up. You're going to be able to, you read well, you write well, you're real good with your hands, you have a great mind. And that child starts saying, yes, just sucking it all in. You know what I'm saying? And then when you connect their name to it, what's your name? What's your name, honey? Daria? Daria, you say Daria. Daria is born, she don't even know her name. How does Daria get to know her name? You say Daria, smart, pretty, gonna be great. Daria, smart, pretty, great. You keep feeding that in, and one day, what does she say? I'm a Daria, I'm smart, I'm pretty, I'm gonna be great. Because that's all that goes in. But it don't go into her body. Where does it go to? Her mind. And her mind begins to direct her body to what? To live that out. But now you take a Darius counterpart. You understand? The boy lives down the street. You say, now, Michael, you dumb. You dumb. You stupid. You stupid. You gonna be a thief. You a criminal. Your father ain't no good. You ain't no good. We hate you. You just ain't no good. And you keep saying, Michael, you dumb. Michael, you terrible. You're violent. You keep feeding his mind. And Michael say, I'm Michael. I'm dumb. I ain't no good. And he begin to repeat it. And all of a sudden, you done took Michael's mind that was unlimited in potential, and you done now made it limited in its potential. Now where Michael's going around talking about, I'm dumb. What you talking about? I'm slow. I'm in the learning disability class. I don't know how to do that. I'm not even supposed to know how to do that. You know what I'm saying? You know, yeah, I'll be thinking of criminal stuff because that's what we do. I'm young, black. That's what we're supposed to think. You take the mind by what? You have the matrix. Tell it who it is. Remember in the matrix they said? Because you human beings stopped being human beings a long time ago. You stopped being human beings when you stopped thinking for yourselves. When we start thinking for you. So now instead of a human being learning who they are from their family and their history and their ancestors, who they learn who they are from? They go to the TV. Oh, how do black males dress? How do black males act? They go to the television. The matrix tells them who they are. They have no idea who their grandfather was, their great-grandfather was, what's in their genes, what's flowing through their blood. Because their body don't matter no more. Because what is their body, what's fed? Is the genes in their body allowed to come like a seed, allowed to reveal to them who they are? Wow, you look like so-and-so. I can see how you act. Tickle your and that greatness allowed to come out of them? No. Now you can take a human being, you don't matter who his parents was. Don't matter who his great-grandparents was. None of that doesn't even matter. Any human being can be used long as you can get control of what? The mind. You can feed it whatever you want. So you feed some people's minds to be doctors. Some people's mind to be lawyers. Some people to be preachers. But all of them have a role in the matrix. The key is don't let none of them unplug from the matrix. Because these are the ones who become the one. Neo. How do we find Neo at the very beginning of the movie? Neo starts out as somebody who don't want to fit in that role. He got a job. He go to work every day. He pays taxes. But he don't do just that. On his off time, he's also a computer hacker. He's doing every illegal thing you can figure out in the computer. Because he don't believe in this. He's saying something about this ain't right. He go to work every day. He work real hard. He pay his taxes. He do everything he's supposed to do. But life ain't fair. Why do some people have it better than other people? And he don't like the fact that this guy who called himself his boss gets to control him. Control when he got to come. Control when he got to go. He gets to control all of that. He don't want to be controlled. So he begins to violate the rules of the matrix. He becomes like what they call the outcast, or becomes the person who begins to do things against the grain, question stuff. So he's sitting in the class, and the teacher's saying such and so. He said, but why? What you mean, why? You know what I'm saying? Well, I heard you say that, but why? He's sitting in Sunday school, and he said, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. He said, well, who was with God? How did somebody write that down? How did they write that down if it was nobody with God? Don't worry about all that. You just got to have faith about that. You know what I'm saying? He the one that was sitting there saying, well, you keep saying all this stuff, but that don't make sense to me. How did Mary have a baby without nobody there? No man was there. She just materialized. The spirit got a pregnant. Do people still do that? He said, he became the mind that says, that don't make no sense to me. Get that to make sense to me. So what happens is, in the matrix, they start to see him. Bling, 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 because other people in the matrix says, something wrong with him. He thinks different. He's doing something different, and he stands out. So the agents come visit him. Hey, who are you? What's the questions you asking? What's this going on with you? You need a better job? You need to make more money? You said the agents look for another way to try to get him to buy into the system. But if he don't buy into the system, what do? They sacrifice his body. But understand, they don't want to sacrifice his body. They don't want to do that. Because when you sacrifice the body, what happens to the machine? Less energy for it. You need as many bodies as possible. In this case, they have to sacrifice his mind And if you remember from the movie, what happens when the mind dies? The body dies. The mind cannot live without the body. The body cannot live without the mind. You understand? So they don't want to sacrifice his body. So they try to intimidate him, scare him, try to force him to believe in the power of the matrix. And when he don't believe in the power of the matrix, you understand, only one or two things got to happen, okay? And this is where we can get into the history of this story. Either he has to die, either he has to get out of the matrix, meaning that he has to now take the information he has been acquiring about what the matrix is and how to get out of the matrix and use it. Remember at the beginning of this, how does this happen? He's looking, when the movie first comes on, he's on the computer looking for Morpheus. Why is he looking for Morpheus? He's looking for Morpheus because Morpheus got a reputation as being somebody who like Farrakhan. You understand? He don't follow the rules. He say what he want to say. Morpheus is this one who just, he a rule breaker. And he lives. And everybody, why they keep Morpheus all over the news? So they can control how people see him. They don't want people seeing him for who he really is. So the Matrix, since they can't control him, they control how he's defined. They keep trying to redefine him over and over again. But Neo recognizes that, hey, they must some kind of way be afraid of him. You know what I'm saying? Because they keep keep doing stuff that against the rules, and they can't catch him. Why don't they just kill him? You know what I'm saying? Why don't they just kill him? But he knows something that keeps him from being killed. So he's studying, trying to find Morpheus. So in the course of trying to find Morpheus, Morpheus recognizes from outside the Matrix, here's a mind looking for a way out. And so what do? They get a group of people. A ship comes. This is how serious this is. A team of people working from the outside in the real world has to work to free the mind of somebody in the Matrix. Now, remember how he does that. We'll connect it let's just make it simple for right now. He says here, only way out the Matrix is this. You have to choose to get out. Just that simple. I can't take you out the Matrix unless you choose to get out the Matrix. How do you choose to get out the Matrix? Here's a red pill, here's a blue pill. Take the blue pill, you're going to wake up, and this is all going to seem like a dream to you. You take the red pill, I'll take you further into the rabbit hole, and you see how far it goes. I'll show you what the Matrix is. So Neo makes a choice now. Takes the red pill. It causes, in the computer world, it's a trace program in the computer program. Now, his mind lights up like a bulb. Bing, 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 bing. So, in the machine world, they come get his body because they figure his body is getting ready to die. They come extract it, take the thing out the back, and they dump him down in the water to turn his body, to liquefy his body to make it food. Because the machine world assumes he's just died. But because the humans know how to make that look like that way, what do? They show up with the hovercraft, they go pick up his body. It would appear to be the place where it died at. They bring it up, and they begin to work on it. Remember the same thing happened in Men in Black? He thought that it appeared that he died, but really what he was doing is coming alive in another world. Same principle here, you understand? So they bring him in there, they work on his body, you understand? They get him all, and then they show him, do you want to know what the Matrix is? And they take him through this process of knowing what the Matrix is. Now, let me just stop right here and give the history of the story. It's really, really important, especially as black people, to know that this story is an old story. It's almost like for people who know the story of the creation story, the story of Jesus Christ, all that, that's new stuff. Africans told that story thousands and thousands of years ago, okay? The Matrix is a new story. Matter of fact, I'm going to give 3 references for it for people who want to go back and study about what the material they drew the Matrix from, okay? The first story I'm going to give comes from a book called The Fourth Way. As a matter of fact, let me do it this way. All I'm going to do is I'm going to read the story for you, okay? And then as I read the story for you, I'm going to show you how this is the old version of the Matrix, okay? Here's the story. The story says, to human beings, think about this book is written right here in 1950. This book right here is written in 1949. It's based on a metaphysical system called the Fourth Way that was founded by a guy named G.I. Gurdjieff, okay? Now, 1949, this is a story we talk about in the modern day context, okay? Here's the story that they use to teach people about how to get out of the matrix. They say, you do not realize your own situation. Talking about human beings. You are in prison. All you can wish for if you're a sensible man, if you're in prison, is what? To escape. But how? How do you escape? It is necessary to tunnel under a wall. One man can do nothing by himself. But let us suppose there are 10 or 20 men who want to escape. If they work in turn, if one covers another, they can complete the tunnel and escape. Furthermore, no one can escape from prison without the help of those who have escaped before. Remember that point. No one can escape from prison without the help of those who escaped before. This is the same thing in the Matrix. Nobody can get out the Matrix unless people in the Matrix already help them out. Same thing in any Christian, any religion. Who helps people get saved in religion? People who are already saved. They go out. People who have already been saved, their job is to do what? Go out and get other people and help them get saved too. It's the same thing. Because people are in a prison. In religious terms, they say you are in sin. That's a prison. And the goal is to free you, save you from that prison of sin to come into the salvation. You know what I'm saying? To not be in it. So, it says, furthermore, no one can escape from prison without the help from those who have escaped before. Only they can say in what way escape is possible, or send tools, files, or whatever is necessary. But one prisoner alone cannot find these people or get in touch with them. An organization is necessary. Nothing can be achieved without an organization. This is, if you know what a plot is in a movie, this is the underlying dynamic for what we call the Matrix today. Simply saying, how are we going to help human beings escape from the human farm? Can't do it by they can't get out without you, and you can't. And if they ain't working as a group inside, you can't help them get out. You know how coordinated an effort to break people out of a prison is? The same science in the movie The Matrix. Same story. This is in a book called In Search of the Miraculous by P.D.R. Spinsky, written in 1949. Same story, another context, written by Spinsky. This is a book called The Fourth Way, written way before that. But it says, prison is just an example. For us, prison is our sleep. What were they doing inside the cocoon, inside the little wombs there? They was in their sleep. And without metaphors, we want to awake when we realize that we are asleep. What does it say? You cannot escape prison if you don't know you're in prison. So the key for the Matrix is not to put no bars on the prison. Because if you put bars, people say, what? I'm in prison. So you got to keep people in prison, but you got to make it big enough for them not to know they are in prison. Because once they know they're in prison, the natural inclination is to what? Escape. So, the key is to keep people from wanting to escape. You can't get them to go to work on the plantation every day if they want to escape. So you got to make it seem like the plantation is a good place to be. Work is a good place to be. It helps take care of you, your family, your grandkids. You get your 401k, you get your retirement. It's good to be. There you go.